reading during every season, but there is something so special about summer reading, going outside and reading at the pool, or going on vacation and reading at the beach, or even just going to your local park, enjoying the summer sunshine and reading your book. There is nothing quite like it. And you may be wondering, Katie, what books are you looking forward to reading this summer? And don't worry, I'm about to tell you in today's video because we are going to be going over my summer TBR. I absolutely love filming seasonal TBR videos. I normally tend to make my list a lot bigger than it probably should be, and most of the time I am nowhere near accomplishing that TBR, so this year I decided to cut it down a little bit. I have 9 books and then 2 series that I'm going to talk to you guys about today. Some of them I own, some of them I don't, some of them are new releases. And speaking of new releases, we're going to go ahead and start out by talking about those. Now, the ones that I'm going to mention, there's not that many on my summer TBR. I actually only have 3 on here. So obviously these aren't all the books that I know of or am interested in reading that are releasing this summer. But if you are curious, I do talk about more new releases in my monthly TBR jar videos. I already posted one for June, and I'll also be posting them for July and August as well. So keep your eyes peeled for those. I'm also thinking about doing a new releases video for the second half of the year, because now that we're almost halfway through 2026, we do have more new releases news. So let me know if you guys are interested in that video as well. Anyways, the first new release that is on my summer TBR is The Someday Garden by Ashley Poston. This is coming out on June 16th, so very soon. The little blurb for this book says, a new head gardener at the enchanting Lilymore house stumbles upon a secret garden with a mysterious man inside. And then it says, in the next magical novel from the New York Times bestselling author Ashley Poston. So I'm gonna assume that this one also has magical realism in it. If you've watched my channel for quite some time now, you will know that I love Ashley Poston. I really love her writing, and she is the author that introduced me to magical realism and made me realize how much I enjoy it in books. Her first 2 magical realism books that she's come out with in the past few years, The Dead Romantics and The 7-Year Slip, I absolutely love. They're 5-star reads for me. But the books that she's come out with the past 2 years, Sounds Like Love was last year, and then the year prior was A Novel Love Story, I didn't love as much. I feel like I just didn't really connect with the characters as much, but I really do love her writing. So I'm really hopeful that with The Someday Garden, the writing and the storyline click for me, and I end up enjoying it as much as I did her first 2 books. The next new release that is on my summer TBR is also coming out on June 16th, and that is Tropesick by Lauren Oakey. She also wrote The Best Worst Thing that a lot of people have been talking about in the past few months or so, and really been enjoying. So when I saw that she was coming out with a new book, I was very excited to get my hands on it. I haven't read The Best Worst Thing yet. It is definitely on my Kindle TBR, but since Tropesick is set in the summer and I actually have an advanced reader copy of it through NetGalley, I figured I would give this one a shot before I read the other one. Tropesick is said to be a lush, slow-burning romance between 2 childhood neighbors that are connected by a shared tragedy. They unexpectedly reunite to ghostwrite a love story for a reclusive author. Spending the summer at her secluded Hamptons estate, they soon discover that dozens of classic romance tropes, including the ones they're crafting on the page, are mysteriously playing out in real life. That just sounds so fun. Also, I don't know if like the mysteriously part means that there's gonna be magical realism. It probably doesn't, but I feel like magical realism is just something that I hope for in a lot of books because it adds something extra to the plot and makes things a little bit more exciting sometimes than just your regular schmegular romance book. But even if it doesn't have magical realism, it still sounds quite enticing, and I'm excited to see what I think of Lauren Oakey's writing. And then we have the final new release that is on my summer TBR coming out on July 2nd. We have Heartstopper Volume 6. You guys, I've been waiting so long for this book. If you've never heard of Heartstopper, it is soon to be a 6-volume graphic novel series following our 2 main characters, Nick and Charlie, by Alice Oseman. They both go to an all-boys school, and Charlie is openly gay. He got bullied for it a lot the year prior, but this year he's met Nick in their homeroom together. They both end up being on the rugby team, and things kind of lead to another. They become very fast friends and then soon begin falling in love. This series is literally the perfect depiction of that first love feeling, which I feel like almost everybody can relate to because it's very human. And it gives you that nostalgic, sweet, giddy feeling of falling in love for the first time again, which I absolutely love. I'm currently also in the process of rereading the other 5 graphic novels that are currently out, just because it's been a bit since I read them and I would like to refresh my memory before the 6th volume comes out, and they're just such quick, easy reads because they're graphic novels. And this series doesn't just explore sexuality and Nick and Charlie's struggles with trying to figure out who they are and who they want to be and who they love, but Alice Oseman also also incorporates a lot of other things that teens go through that are very hard, that I feel like a lot of other authors don't tend to write about just because they are a lot harder and deeper things, as well as just darker themes. And it's crazy how much she packs into a graphic novel. And I'm really excited, but also incredibly sad to see how she decides to end Nick and Charlie's story. Now we're gonna go ahead and get into the majority of my summer TBR, which are books that I already own. And the first one is Our Perfect Storm by Carly Fortune. This book just recently released in the beginning of May, and I cannot wait to get my grubby little hands on it. This is following our main character, Frankie, and is the eve of her wedding weekend, and her best friend, George, is nowhere to be found. When all of a sudden, out of nowhere, George ends up showing up, acting like normal, and then her fiance decides to dump Frankie. So they're like, okay, what are we gonna do now? So Frankie and George end up deciding to go on the would-be honeymoon together and work out what's really been going on with their friendship. I cannot wait to read this book. I know the writing's gonna be good because every single book Carly Fortune has ever written, the writing's been good. Even if I haven't absolutely loved the plot, time and time again, her writing delivers. I feel like the plot of this one does sound interesting to me. I have seen a few, maybe not mixed reviews, just lower reviews from other people who have very similar reading taste to me than I was really hoping for. But overall, I'm still really excited to read it. Her release last year, One Golden Summer, was my favorite book of the summer and my favorite romance of the entire year. So no matter what, I know I'm gonna have an enjoyable time with this one. Next on my summer TBR is Good Joy, Bad Joy by Mickey Brammer. This is following our main character, Joy. Who would have guessed? Joy is in her 80s. She's a rule follower. She's very type A. And her best friend Hazel is the exact opposite of her. And Hazel ends up getting a medical diagnosis that ends up changing Joy's tune, and Joy starts living more freely, and she begins to step more and more out of her comfort zone. I am really excited to read this. I recently read The Correspondent by Virginia Evans and absolutely adored it. And the main character in that book, Sybil, she is in her late 70s. And recently, I've been really loving books with older protagonists. I feel like they just have so much wisdom and self-identity that really comes across through the page. And I really felt that while reading The Correspondent, so I'm really hoping that I have a similar experience with this book as well. Lottie recently read this. She literally sent me a video and she was like, Katie, you need to read this immediately so I can have somebody to talk to about it. So that is also another reason why it is on the TBR. I feel like I'm really gonna like this one, but it's gonna leave me a little bit teary-eyed, which, if we're being completely honest, that's not a bad thing. Next, we have Writers and Lovers by Lily King. This is the prequel to Heart the Lover. I feel like I've talked so much about Heart the Lover so far this year. That's one of my favorite books that I've read so far this year. I'm hoping that I can read it sometime this summer, since I read Heart the Lover in February, I believe. And because they're connected, I don't want to read them too far apart. Plus, I just really love Lily King's writing style, so I'm excited to read this anyways. I'm only going to read you a little bit of the back because I don't want to give anything away if you haven't read Heart the Lover. It says, written in King's trademark humor, heart, and intelligence, this is a transfixing novel that explores artistic passion, ambition, and the terrifying and exhilarating leap between the end of one phase of life and the beginning of another. Writers and Lovers is an unforgettable portrait of an artist as a young woman. You're probably wondering, Katie, why the heck did you read Heart the Lover first if that's a sequel to this book? And it's because Heart the Lover came out last year. I had seen so many amazing reviews of it, and me and my friends Olivia and Kristen ended up reading it together in February. And then we figured out there was a prequel, so now I'm gonna read this one. This actually came out, I think, 5 or so years ago, so I'm really interested to see what I'm gonna think of this one and if it holds up to Heart the Lover. Next is The Burning Side by Sarah DeMoth. I have heard nothing but amazing things about The Burning Side, but also nothing but amazing things about The Bright Years that came out last year. This is the story of April and Leo, a couple on the brink of collapse. When their house goes up in flames, family secrets and thorny histories emerge as they are forced to decide what is worth salvaging. A family saga suffused with humor, longing, and heartbreak. The Burning Side is about what we inherit and what we choose, about forgiveness and the ache of being known. It is above all about the meaning of home and the cost of long love. I really love a book about family drama, and just because, again, I've heard amazing things about it, I am on the edge of my seat wondering what I'm going to think about her storytelling, her writing. This book just has me so incredibly intrigued. Also, the cover, stunning. We love a sunset. This just seems like a book that I'm really going to enjoy, so I'm going to try and wait until the perfect moment where I'm really in the mood for it to read it. Next is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I've been meaning to read this for quite some time now, and this is also on my TBR for 2026, and I figured why not read it in the summer because it's not specifically a summer book. I feel like it doesn't really have a season, and I feel like a lot of the books left on my yearly TBR were meant for fall or winter reading, so I'm gonna be reading it this summer. I've never read any anything by R.F. Kuang. I've been very intimidated in the past by her books, and I've gotten a lot of comments saying that I shouldn't be, which has honestly been making me feel a lot less intimidated. The back says, white lies, dark humor, and deadly consequences. Best-selling sensation Juniper Song is not who she says she is. She didn't write the book she claims she wrote, and she is most certainly not Asian American. Yellowface grapples with questions of diversity, racism, and cultural appropriation, as well as the terrifying alienation of social media. I honestly feel like I've heard mixed reviews of Yellowface, but I feel like it's probably the easiest place to start with her books because it's not crazy long and it's not a series, so I'm excited to finally read it and see what I think. Hopefully I like it. The only book that is on my summer TBR that I don't own, besides the new releases of course, is My Friends by Frederick Bachman. I've been searching for this book recently, and this came out sometime last summer in hardback, but I talked to one of the booksellers at Barnes & Noble, and they said that because it's coming out in paperback sometime in July, they're not going to get any more hardbacks in, so I haven't been able to find it anywhere. So because of that, I'm probably just going to read it from the library in some way, or just buy the paperback copy whenever that eventually comes out. My Friends by Frederick Bachman is a deeply moving literary novel that explores the meaning of friendship, loyalty, and the invisible ties that shape our lives. Richly layered and beautifully written, this novel captures both heartbreak and hope, making it an unforgettable reading experience. I've read a few novellas from Frederick Bachman, but the only full-length novels that I've ever read from him are the Beartown trilogy. I loved Beartown. I gave it 5 stars. It was so well done. You can't help but connect with the characters, the way that he wrote everything and formatted it. It was a perfect book, in my opinion. And then I read the rest of the series, and it honestly just felt like we didn't need more, or at least what we were given more of for the characters' storylines, I just didn't love. Because this is a standalone, I'm not that worried about those feelings. I honestly think that because, again, it is a standalone, I'm probably really going to enjoy it just as much as I did with Beartown. And this is just another one of those books that I have heard absolutely glowing reviews for, so I'm very excited to read it sometime this summer. Next up, we are going to get into the 2 series that I really want to focus on. The first one being the Ember and the Ashes Quartet. I don't know why I'm trying to hold this with one hand. My hand is not that large. This might be the best I can do for holding them all up. The Ember and the Ashes Quartet, everyone, by Sabaa Tahir. This series was originally published sometime in the 2010s, I believe, and then it got new covers recently, a few years ago, so they sparked in popularity again, and I'm very glad they did because I've already read the first one, An Ember and the Ashes. I read it in December, and I really enjoyed it. I just haven't gotten to the rest of the series until now because I was prioritizing a lot of other series, and I said until now because I actually just started today A Torch Against the Night, the second book in this series. This was actually on my TBR for the month of May. I just didn't end up getting to it, but I decided to start it at the beginning of June, not only because I want to read it this summer, but the third book in the series, Our Reaper at the Gates, is actually on my June TBR. So I was gonna have to get to it anyways, and while we're here, let's talk about the fourth book, A Sky Beyond the Storm. This series is absolutely stunning. I love the colors of all of the books. They're so bright and colorful. They're gonna look so pretty on my bookshelves, not just because of the colors, but also the spines. Yeah, they match up. Here are just the first 3 because I can't hold all 4 of them in one hand, as we've already discussed. But isn't that so cool? I love whenever series do that, and they just look so good together. Another reason that motivates me to read them all so they can be on my bookshelves. But this series is following our 2 main characters, Elias and Leia. It's dual POV. It is YA fantasy. The whole shtick of the first book is Elias is a soldier, Leia is a slave. In the world they live in, there's a big empire that is wreaking havoc on the land, and unfortunately Elias is a part of that, but he's starting to question a lot of things because the empire is very brutal and hateful, and he doesn't really want to be a part of that anymore. But unfortunately his mother is very powerful, and she is the commandant of the school that he goes to that is for the Masks. The Masks are these elite ruthless warriors that are working for the empire, and they also have this like silver mask that forms fully to their skin that they can't take off eventually. It's really cool whenever you think about it, how certain things in this world works. But basically Elias wants out of the life that he's been given, but it's really hard to get out, and Leia is kind of in a similar scenario. Like I said, she is a slave, but her parents were a part of the rebellion, and something tragic ends up happening to where she has to go undercover for the rebellion and be a slave to Elias's mother, the commandant. of the school. I really enjoyed the first one, and I say this a lot with first books in a fantasy series, but I feel like it's hard to really fall in love with the characters in a whole fantasy world that you don't know anything about until you read the first book. In the first book, just because there is so much thrown at you and so much setup. And even though I did really enjoy it for a first book in a fantasy series, I'm already really enjoying the second one a lot more. Just because at the beginning, it is already so thrilling. It's starting off with so much action. So I'm overall really excited to see where the rest of the series is going to go. And finally, the last series and books that are on my summer TBR is the whole Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. These were all the rage whenever I was growing up, but I somehow escaped reading them. I really don't know how that happened, but I'm a 25-year-old adult woman and I have never read Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. I decided to read these sometime this summer because I know that some of it takes place at a camp called Camp Half-Blood, and camp and summer go hand in hand, so it just kind of made sense to me. I also felt like this would be an easier fantasy series to get into. These are following demigods that are children of Greek gods, I believe. I don't know almost anything about Greek gods, if I'm gonna be so for real. I've just never really been into that. So this is gonna be my first little adventure into the Greek gods world. I mean, I know like the basic stuff. Like I know who Zeus is, I know Aphrodite, Hercules, obviously. Honey, you mean Huncules. I love that movie to bits. I've watched it a billion times. So I guess, you know what, I do have basic knowledge. But besides the Disney classic Hercules, I don't know a ton. This series is actually middle grade, so I feel like I'm gonna fly through these. The first one is actually on my June TBR, The Lightning Thief. I feel like the first one is going to set precedent for the rest of the series, so I'm really nervous to get into it. But a lot of my friends that read this in childhood and have read it recently in adulthood have said that they hold up. The second one is The Sea of Monsters. The third one is The Titan's Curse. The fourth is The Battle of the Labyrinth, and then the fifth and final is The Last Olympian. I want to read all of them in a vlog, so hopefully that'll be up sometime this summer or more towards the end of summer. I'm really looking forward to giving this series a chance though. And there you have it. Those are all the books that are on my summer TBR. Let me know in the comments what books are at the top of your summer TBR, and thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, it would be super awesome if you could like and subscribe. It helps out my channel a ton. And if you watched until this far in the video, comment down below the sun emoji so I know who the real ones are who watched until the very end of the video. And I think that's gonna be it for me today. I love you guys so much. Hope you're all having an amazing day and are excited for summer, and I will see you guys in my next one coming real soon. Bye guys. Peace.